Welcome to part 2 of my financial wellness workshop. In this segment of the workshop, I focus on general topics and specific financial strategies to start your relationship with money. I talk about what credit is, why you need it, how to build it, and how to use credit cards. I break down the basics of a simple budget and talk about why you have to have one. I discuss different types of investments and how they work and what compound interest is. Very informative, educational, lecture style information specifically about the basics on how to get started in terms of your finances. If you haven't already watched part 1, I highly recommend you do that first, then come back here. The link for part 1 is in the video description below, and it's a really important prerequisite for the content I discuss in this video. If you have already watched part 1 and you're ready for part 2, then let me shut up and let you get right into it. Enjoy. I focus on the 80% of why you're doing what you're doing because what to do is easy. It's on the internet. Just Google, what do I do to earn money? What do I do to lose weight? What do I do to start a business? What do I do to buy a house? It's all there. The information's there. And so why doesn't everybody do it? Because it's not the what or the how that's the problem. It's the why. It's the why behind it. So I focus on the mentality first, but at the same time, there are some tips and some insights that I can give you about the what. And so today, really, I want to focus primarily on that 20% mechanics, the what do I do, and the how do I do it. And that's what I talk about here. And the what and the how, or the how and the what, the 20% of the mechanics or the technical part of money involves some things that I mentioned last time, but what I'm going to really dive back into today and make sure you at least have some background knowledge or, clear up any misconceptions or confusion about these things, because they're terms you hear about all the time and the things that you know exist, but do you know the ins and outs of them and maybe how they even relate to you? So we'll talk about briefly a bank account and understanding what that does. Now, a lot of you already have a bank account, so you can just, in your mind, skip over that one. But I still want to point out, if you're using it, whether or not you're using it, maximizing it the way that you can. So we'll talk about checking and savings and how it relates to your bank account. And then your budget, which is really important. And I doubt the majority of everybody in here really has a disciplined budget. And it can be very simple. And we'll talk more about budget in a minute. And then credit. Credit is the big boogeyman for a lot of people, but it shouldn't be. And I'll talk about what your credit score is, FICO scores, that sort of thing, what they consist of, and then how they relate to credit cards, introduce you to that world. And again, keeping self-discipline in mind. And then interest, how does interest work? Whether you're paying interest, hopefully not, or you're earning interest, and that has to do a lot of times with investments. So this is really what I want to briefly cover and go over, and I started at 11:30 today so that we have a good hour to talk about this stuff, and it's 12 o'clock on the dot. Claudia, keep me on point in terms of, the time. When I have 10 minutes left, you can come over to the side and just throw the red light at me or whatever the case is. So let's talk a little bit about some few basic things, and again, if you have any further questions about this, I'll try to leave a moment at the end to clarify it, but as always, if you're really hard pressed and you really want to clarify something that I said, or feel free to raise your hand and I'll try to address it right then. But for the sake of time, prefer you wait till the end. And then obviously after the workshop, you guys can always come by my office, reach out to me, connect with me on social media, email me a question, and we can follow up on this. But I want to give you the information bank account. Well, what are we talking about with a bank account? You go to a bank, and it could be a bank like Chase, could be Bank of America, or it could be the credit union. And we have the credit union here, one of them, in the back of the room. Okay, and so on the way out, you can ask any questions about the credit union and how to open an account there. I think you need $5 to open an account with the credit union, and with most of them, but with EdFed there. So you can already open a bank account. And what is a bank account going to do for you? When you open that account, let's just say, with $5, you'll get a checking account, which obviously will involve, you'll get a debit card. You can write checks to cash checks or write checks that will be, taken out of that account. You can get money wired into that account. So, ACH or wire, that's what that's called. You can send money out of it. And then you can get a secured credit card if you don't have any credit or you don't have a credit card. And that's really how you'll start your journey when it comes to credit cards. It's a secured credit card. And so I'll say briefly what that is. And what that is you go to them and you say, look, I want to get a secured credit card, and you'll take $500 of your own dollars, I think is roughly what it is. They'll have a limit. And you say, they'll say, we need this amount of money. You give them that $500. They put it on a card. And as you spend money off of that card, you basically are starting to build your credit. Different from a debit card. Raise your hand if you have a debit card. Ugh. Okay. That's okay for now. But with a debit card, whose money are you spending? Your own money. You swipe the debit card, you spend your own money, all right? And then if you swipe it and you don't get, if it doesn't work, that means you don't have any money in the bank. Fine. I mean, that's maybe why you're using a debit card, because you have a little bit of income and you don't want to go over. Okay, fine. But I would encourage you to evolve away from debit and start to use credit as you get older, as you gain more income, because income is going to be very critical. You need to have the money to be able to pay for the things that you spend. But a debit card, you spend your own money. The secured credit card, yes, you're spending your own money at first, but it's because you're showing the credit card company and the bank that you're responsible enough to spend that money. So as you swipe and spend the $500 on that account, and
there's no risk for them because it's your money. You know, if you spend it or you get down to zero, that's it. But you spend that money, and if you want to put money back on it again, you put, as you spend the money, but you're building your credit. That's basically sending a signal, say, look, I'm trying to start my responsible journey with credit. That's what a secured credit card is. You got to start there if you don't already have that. And there's ways that you can be put on your parents as a card holder as well, and you'll start to basically earn credit based on how they do that. But I don't want to bring anybody outside of this conversation into it, but there are other options and ways to start building your credit. Then a savings account, APY, annual percentage yield. That's interest or money that you'll be getting. That's APY is money you get. APR is money you pay, hopefully not. So savings account, basic bank account information, okay? Budget. Let's talk about budget, because now you have a bank account open and you understand, you know, we have a place to manage your money that's official there. If you want to start a business or whatever the case is, I had a buddy of mine, or this young guy I knew, and he had a lawn company, and he wanted to start his own lawn company, and he didn't even have a bank account open. So I tried to get him, you got to open a bank account so you can, obviously send money and accept money, and Cash App is there, and these other opportunities are there nowadays, but that's not going to work all the time for everybody necessarily. And even a Zelle, they're going to do from a bank account. So there's benefits of having this account open. Budget, looking at three things here. Budget, income, obviously. How much money's coming in? That's revenue and earnings. That's how much money you are making. So revenue, you always got to sit down at the table. How much am I making? Well, I make $50 a week babysitting. There you go. That's your income. That's what it is. Expenses, that would be, let's say you make $200 babysitting a month. That's your revenue. Expenses, bills or debts. Your cell phone's $100. You make $200 revenue. You owe $100 for your cell phone. I'm just throwing numbers out there, by the way, to get an idea, and I'll show you a visual of the budget in a second. Those are your expenses, and I'm obviously putting this to a level that maybe I was at when I was 18 or 20. But as you mature, as you get older, as you make more money, as you buy and purchase more things and own more properties, then your expenses and your expenses and your increase, your bills and your debts increase. But hopefully at the same time, obviously your income does. So the thing we're focused on here is the philosophy behind it, how you'll look at these things. So you have income, you have expenses, and then hopefully after you make your money and then you pay out the bills that you owe, whatever your expenses are, hopefully you have a little money left. We call that a balance at the end of your month or monthly. And so what do you do there? And we look at, what do we do there? You can put money in your savings. You can put money, I call that an emergency fund, maybe in your savings. It's money you can access instantly. It's there in case you need something. I talked about last time, your transmission goes out, you have a hospital bill, or you got to get a new AC or whatever it is. Savings, you can access that. Investments, that's a long-term approach. And then leisure, it's money that you're going to spend this weekend when you go to the fair. You have $50 in your pocket. So whatever the case is the fair still going, or is it done? Still going? My fair days are over, but enjoy. So what are we looking at here? Again, this is what it might look like. So your budget involves your income, your expenses, and your balance. That's ideally what would happen. And ideally, you have a balance left over. What do you do with the balance? This is what I just said. You want to stick some money in your savings, so you slide $25 a month or $50 a month over to your savings, and that's your emergency fund. Ideally, you want to build up an emergency fund. Why? For emergencies. You have a job, you're making $2,000 a month, everything's going good. You have your rent, which is maybe $850 because you have a roommate, then you get fired, and you don't have a job for 2 months. So what the hell are you going to do for rent? Well, I have $5,000, $2,000 in my savings account, my emergency fund. At least I can pay my rent for 2 months. I don't have to stress that. Emergency fund. If you're at zero, well, a lot of y'all know what that's about. Now you go begging, finding, scrapping, borrowing, and we don't want to be in that. So while you're making money, save some of that for this, I don't say rainy day, I like rainy days, the emergencies. So savings, what else? Oh, I went too far. Investments, I'll talk a little bit about that today, but that's just a kind of, don't even think about it. Just send it where it goes and just buy. I'll see you in 40 years, 30 years, and we'll talk about investments in a little bit. And then you have your leisure. So that's really ideally the mentality behind your budget. But what does it look like? And so I know you guys can't necessarily see this completely, but here's what I'm going to go over. This is a sample budget. You can pretend like this is you with your income, okay? And if you want this sample budget, this is an Excel spreadsheet. You can plug and play. There's a little QR code. Take a picture of that. It'll take you to my website. There's download the file. You can have the Excel sheet, and it'll be exactly this right here. You can delete what we're going to go over today and put your own in. So feel free to take a picture of that, and that'll give you a link to this budget. So what do we have here? And first and foremost, I have at the top here monthly expenses. These are all my monthly expenses in yellow, really. Necessary expenses. Necessary, need, musts almost, right? Necessary. What do we have? Total $1,300. I'll read you what they are. For this example, rent, car insurance, health insurance, cell phone, electric, gas, maybe a minimum credit card payment. I don't have that one there. But that totals $1,300, okay? Okay, these are your expenses, but they're necessary expenses. But you guys spend money on more than just the necessary things, don't you? You spend money on cable, Netflix, Y'all, we won't go there because some of y'all pay for Netflix. Some of y'all don't, but some of y'all pay for Netflix, gym, groceries, restaurants. And I have groceries and restaurants there because, again, where and how you eat is flexible. You know, you could eat ramen or you could go to Chili's. That's a different price for that meal, but it's flexible. So I put it here because you know what that is. SunPass, you get the idea. Those things you can cancel, not the food part, but you can cancel or cut down on at least with the food part at any time. That's why I call those discretionary, because push come to shove, you know, you're strapped for 2-3 months, cancel the gym membership, don't, you know, cut the cable off, cancel the Netflix because you hit rock bottom. Now y'all thinking, cut my Netflix off. If you're broke, it's probably a good idea because you don't really necessarily need that. But you have the discretion to put something there. So what does that consist of? Discretionary expenses, $425. So these are your expenses, and you have to look at what they are. Even me, I'm constantly realizing that I spend money on things that I didn't consider. And so I'm adding that to my budget as time goes by. What do we have here? Total income. And by the way, income. Have a seat, Miguel. What you think? This is your show? Relax, buddy. Walking into the front row. This is my guy from a previous semester. He doesn't even go to this campus anymore. He showed up. Welcome back.
Hey, man, don't put me on blast like
That's not blast. You're good, man. You're done. You graduated. Congratulations. You're good. You graduated from my classes at Homestead campus. So what do we have? We have the discretionary funds and necessary funds. Those are your expenses. But what about income? $2,000 a month. Let's just say that's your income, okay? Here's where the math comes out. Well, you have $2,000 a month that you make. Your expenses are $1,725. That leaves you a balance, $275. What do you do with that balance? It's kind of what I want to talk about today, because everything else is gone. It's for you to maintain the lifestyle you have. You have to spend $1,725 to maintain the lifestyle that you have. So what do you have? You have $275. What do most people do with the money they have left over at the end of their month? The questions are at the end, Miguel. I knew he was going to raise his hand ASAP. This is kind of a rhetorical question. They spend it. It's in their pocket, and they go through and I'm going to buy that, I'm going to do that, I'm going to order that on Amazon, I'm going to go to the fair. I'm not even going to think about it. I have it in my pocket so I can spend it. And then before you know it, oh man, money's tight. I don't have any money. I got to wait 2 more weeks before I get da-da-da-da. Because you didn't really focus on what you needed to do with that balance, and you weren't really thinking about things, being mindful like I told you before. So this is a snapshot of what it looks like, all right? This is a snapshot of what it should look like. And your balance might be $5, it might be $500. What we're going to talk about today is with that balance, what do we do and how do we look at that relative to everything else that we're talking about, okay? Which brings me to credit, because that's the basics when it comes to cash and cash flow, budgets, okay? What is credit? What is credit? Credit is simply the ability to borrow and spend someone else's money. That's what it is. That's all it is. I'm going to borrow some money. Now, remember, nothing's free. Generally speaking, you borrow money, there's going to be some sort of an agreement there that if you borrow this money, you agree to pay this over this amount of time or after this or if this happens. I understand there's an agreement, there's an exchange. Always be looking at that. And a lot of times that's either interest rates or fees. You need to become definitely allergic to high interest rates and allergic to fees completely. Always ask, what are the fees? What are the fees? Because they might be like, here, we have this and package this up and this is a great deal. And you're like, what's it going to cost me? What are the fees? Okay, well, here are the fees. And they'll show you. But if you don't, then on the back end, you're going to get the bill and you'll be like, what's this extra $7,500 for? Oh, yeah, we didn't tell you there was X, Y, and Z fees associated to that. Raise your hand if you've ever dealt with that already. You got a bill for something or you had to pay for something and there was like extra money tacked on. You didn't know what it was a fee. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It gets worse the more you deal with more money and the more you start to borrow money and things like that. Just be mindful of that one. Credit is just the ability to borrow and spend somebody else's money. Why do we want to do that? There's a number of reasons why you want to do that. One, because banks have more money than you do. And if you want that much money, you're going to need to borrow it in the short term to be able to flip that or make more. There's a lot of reasons why. Why credit? Okay, why credit? And these are just some reasons why you want to start to build your credit, okay? Because first of all, you're not going to be able to borrow money from anybody at all ever if you don't have any credit. Because they're like, who are you? I don't know if you're responsible with money, which I'm going to get to in a moment. I'm not going to let you borrow anything. So you need to build your credit so you can borrow. Well, why else? Better rates on whatever you're doing. Because sometimes you're going to have to pay a rate. You could pay 3% or you could pay 15%. That's a big difference. Better rates. You can save on other types of insurance besides just, well, you can save on types of insurance. You qualify for lower interest rates, obviously, maybe for a home loan. You get approved for higher credit limits. That's a big deal because if you apply for a credit card and you maybe have a little bit of credit, but it's like $350 versus $750, I'm going to give you a credit card if you have $350, but I'm going to give you a balance. I'm going to give you a credit line of like $1,000. You have if you have a credit score of like $750 or above, something that's good or excellent, then I'm like, here's $5,000. I'm going to give you more money to spend because you're more responsible. Have more housing options. Get utility services more easily, cell phone without prepaying or making a security deposit. These are just a few of them. I think I pulled these off the internet just looking around at some benefits. I know what they are by now. Why credit? That's some reasons why. because you guys know some people who are absolutely opposed and anti-credit, and I'll get to why that's the case in a minute, but I'm just trying to give you another perspective as to why. Credit score, I kind of alluded to this a second ago. Credit score, what is it? What's a credit score? Simply put, it's a responsibility rating. It's a rating of how responsible you are with other people's money. That's it. If you're responsible with other people's money, you pay on time, so on and so forth, some things we talk about today, your rating goes up. And what it says is, this person's responsible, let them borrow as much as they want, because they're going to be responsible with it. That's what a credit score is essentially, okay? Just keep that in mind. Credit score is a fiscally responsible score. It lets people know how responsible you are with money. What does a credit score look like or consist of? A couple of things here. FICO credit score. You might hear of this Vantage credit score. Vantage score, credit score. So just talking about FICO, there's a range, obviously, and that number talks about what, lets them know how you're doing. And so this is obvious, poor credit, fair credit, good credit, very good or exceptional. We're looking at something above 580 if we're looking for fair. After about 670, according to this scale, 670 to 739 is good. Above 740 is very good. According to this scale, it goes from 800 to 850 and it looks like exceptional. I'm not bragging. I'm just proud and I'm trying to encourage you all and let you all know where we can go. But I checked mine last night. It was 858. So apparently I'm going with another scale than this one. But I've worked 43 years to get it to 858. Y'all aren't 43 yet, I don't think. And if you are, you had a different path in life, so it's no big deal if you're not there. And it can go up a lot faster than you would think. So you want to get it up as high as you can. And again, good credit, very good credit. That's really what you're after, man. As you start to make more money and earn more and have more open, loans and bills that you're paying on time because you can afford them, you'll have exceptional credit after a while. But I'm just showing you that to show you what's possible. FICO score. So now your question is, okay, well, how do I increase my credit score? How do I raise my credit score? What does it consist of? And this comes straight from the website, straight from the app. It tells you this is the breakdown, and you might have this even on yours. You might have seen this before. You can Google this information. This isn't top secret. What does it consist of? I want to clarify a few things here. So you see that pie chart there, 35%, 30%, 15%, 10%, and 10%. This is really a breakdown of what factors into your credit score. What is it that determines whether it goes down or it goes up? I'll just go over what they are here and try to clarify a couple of these things. Number one, payment history. What is that talking about? What do they mean there? Are you paying your bills on time? Are you missing payments? Are you late payments? Payment history. And that's the biggest chunk. So again, self-discipline. Pay your bills on time. On time. There's a deadline for a reason. Now, some of y'all are going to struggle right now, at least I know, because y'all are my babies. You're going to struggle with paying on time because you struggle with turning in your homework on time. So I know you're going to be like, man, I missed the payment. It's not in school. Yeah, that results in a poor grade or whatever the case is. But in here, you're going to lose money. Pay on time, payment history. 30%, the amount you owe. The amount you owe. If you have $8,000 in debt and you only have a $9,000 credit line, you owe a lot of money. So be mindful about how much you owe. We can get into that a little bit later, but keep that in mind. And the amount you owe is going to be relative to your credit line. So if I give you a credit line, meaning here's $50,000, a $50,000 credit line. Now, nobody in here, including me, I don't think really is going to spend $50,000 a month because I don't have $50,000 a month to pay back to them at the end of the month. But it still shows on your report that you have the opportunity. Someone has trusted you with $50,000. That shows up. But I'm only spending $500 a month and paying $500 back. I'm only spending $1,000 a month. So when they run the credit, I owe $1,000 at that moment when they run it, but I have a $50,000 credit line. So that's a debt to income, a debt to balance ratio. It's a debt to credit line ratio. There's some terminology there. It shows what you owe, but what you could be spending. Versus I owe $49,000 and I have a $50,000 credit line. You see the difference? I'm kind of maxing it out, getting close. So just keep those things in mind as well. 15%, the length of credit history. This is important for you all. I think my oldest account was an Amex card I opened in like 2004. That's when my credit started. So get your credit started because right now, whatever credit card you open, your history of having a relationship with credit starts when you open that first account and it shows up on your credit report. Even if you open more accounts 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, your credit started then. So the length of credit history, if you just started, they're like, we don't know how responsible this cat is. It's only been 6 months since his first credit card or since his first account was open. But, she's had credit for 10 years. New credit opened, that can be good or bad. So if you continually are running your credit to open new accounts, then of course your credit's going to drop a few points because it's like, hold on, why are they asking to borrow more money? Basically, that's what they're looking at. But also it can work for you. If you have multiple accounts open and they're in good standing and they're on time, it's actually a good thing. So don't be afraid of that. But that's something to think about too. And then a type of credit. So you have a car loan is one type of credit. Credit card is another type of credit. A mortgage is another, I should say loan, type of loan. These are different types of credit. So the different types and variations, again, show that you're responsible in different areas of your life. Those are the factors that add to your credit score. Keep all of them in check, credit score goes up. Quick questions about that one, if there's any clarification about that. I know that that's just really a brief overview of these 5 things here, but just going to show you that your credit score is made up of a couple of things there. So let's talk about credit cards now that you know what a credit score is.
When you first open a credit account, what is your starting score? Is it just 0 or?
That's a good question. It depends on, I think, because again, you're going to have to build your credit with a secured credit card first. And so before you open your first actual credit card account, your credit is 0 right now because you don't have, let's say you don't have a secured credit line. But once you open that secured card, you'll start to build it. So it'll probably jump up to 200, 300, for whatever it is. So when you open your first credit card, you should already have something in a couple hundred points there. So yeah, 0 when you first start. As far as I know, I don't think it give you a little buffer or anything. It might be like less than that, or it might be a little more than that, but I think it's 0. Credit cards. Yeah, Bo.
Can't you start with 500?
I don't think, no. 500 is great. You're going to give you 500 off top? Go ahead, David. They gave you 500 when you started a secured credit card?
Sure, yes.
500 points for a secured credit card.
Yeah, when I jumped credit card, it was 500.
Because you know why? With that secured credit card, your credit can go down afterwards too. So they're going to give you, that's actually a good point. They're going to give you a buffer so that it can go down. Yeah, good. So good. Something that I didn't know. These are things that you guys can look up or ask me afterwards. We can look at together because that's far behind me. But you guys want to know, regardless of what it is, so you got to think about why you were wondering what that is. Why you were wondering what that number is. How far do I have to go? Is it 0? Is it 500? It doesn't matter. Your behavior needs to be the same no matter what. You understand what I'm saying? Don't worry about it. You can check it and see where you are, but the behavior should be there no matter what. It doesn't matter what the number is. And when you conduct yourself like that, the number will be sky high before you know it, and that'll just be routine. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what you want to do. It's a fair question, and I'm glad you guys taught me something today. And it might vary, I don't know. But I said no because I know someone who started their credit, and he told me, man, my credit's 350. And I don't know if that's because he started and then it went down, or if it's because he started with that number. But thanks, David. Yeah, okay, I'll look around and see if it's different for different places. But again, my point is your behavior needs to be the same if it's 0 or 500. It doesn't matter. Say it starts at 850. Great, but I mean, obviously, they're still going to look at these other factors, you know, and it's not going to start at 850. So I'm just focusing on the behavior that you have there. Credit cards. Where do I start with credit cards? First and foremost, they're not the devil, and a lot of people are really anti-credit cards. I gave you last time 2 reasons why most people are really anti-credit cards, or why they'll tell you stay away from credit cards. 1, they've been burned because they were irresponsible. Hey man, I'm terrified of them. I got burned, I'm in debt. You should stay away from them. I'm not you. Number 1. Number 2, they think, because they know you, or they assume, you're not going to be responsible enough to use it, so you should avoid them. What they're doing is they're assuming that you're not responsible and you should avoid the credit card because your irresponsibility is going to leave you in debt. And they are right, they are correct. If you are irresponsible, you will be left in debt. So it's true, if you're irresponsible, you should listen to them. But if you focused on what we talked about in the beginning, and you're responsible, then don't let fear dictate your emotions and your behavior, I should say. So responsibility and fear, nothing to be afraid of, and you got to know what's going on. The knowledge there behind it is important for you as well. So the reason why a lot of people are anti-credit cards, because 1, I should say the third one is they just don't know how they work. They've been burned, they think you're irresponsible, or because they were, but they're also maybe not educated. So that's one of the big reasons why you get that attitude. What's a credit line? I kind of referred to it already. A credit line is when you open an account, they tell you, here's a credit card. You're wondering, well, how much can I spend? How much do I have? What is this credit card worth? Here's a credit line of $2,000. And what they're saying is, you have $2,000 you can spend on this card. That's what we're going to let you borrow. Okay, so that's a credit line. It could be $2,000, could be $10,000. Credit line is what they're going to give you. So that terminology, credit line, okay? Just understanding credit line. The interest rate is APR, annual percentage rate. That's what you will pay if they charge you interest. Now, what I'm going to show you is that you need to become allergic to interest, and you need to pay your bills on time in a way where you never pay them anything. And so think about the agreement. We're going to give you a card with a credit line of $2,000. with the understanding that if you miss a payment or you're late with your payment, there's going to be fees and interest. So here's $2,000. If you pay on time, you don't pay a dime to us in interest. If you're late, we're going to charge you 25% interest on your late payments. That's how they'll make their money, and they'll rely on you being irresponsible. Keep that in mind.
Every car commercial that I see for like new models of every car would always say 0 and APR.
Those are promos. We're going to talk about promos in a minute, Miguel. Minimum payment. What is that? That's how you stay in good standing. And I'm going to show you. Is it next? Come on in, bro. Let's go. I'm going to show you this just so we can talk about minimum payment. Real quick, balance transfer. Actually, I'm going to talk about balance transfer in a minute, so I'm going to go to my next slide. Minimum payment. What are we talking about here with credit cards? I'm going to show you just a snippet, just a snapshot. Pulled this up 2 days ago. This is one of my credit cards, okay? One of my credit cards I use monthly. So this is my March statement. My March statement. I know you can't quite see this, but I'm going to walk you through what this is. This is a statement that your credit card will send you every month. March statement, okay? I've had this card since 2016. Billing period. It tells you what the period of time was that your charges, what the period of time was with the charges that you used that they're going to charge you for, that they're billing you for, I should say. So the billing period is you have to pay for the charges when you use that card between that period of time. February 10th to March 9th. Anytime I use that card and a charge that was applied during that window, that's on this statement. So that totaled up to be $797. And what they told me then was, and that's the billing period, got the statement, my balance as of the day the statement cut, which is March 9th, was $797, payment due date. So the payment is due, and what's the payment? Well, $797.76 is due March what the hell's after March? April 7th. Look at this now. I spent money from February 10th to March 9th. I have until April 7th to pay it. You understand? Statement cuts March 9th. I have until April 7th to pay it. That's a pretty big window.
To pay the $800 or the $41?
I'm going to get to the 41 in a second. No. I spent $797.76 during that window. That's what I owe them. Now, if I don't want to be charged interest, I can just pay, I should say, my bad. To be in good standing, I can just pay $41. That's the minimum payment. But what happens to the rest of the money that I owe them after I pay the $41? You can do simple math. $797 minus 41. Say I pay $41. I still owe them what? Whatever that math is. $750 or $7... I still owe them that money. That's a balance that's sitting there. What are they doing? Charging me interest on that money as long as it sits. The next month comes, I'll just pay the minimum payment so that I'm not late, so I stay in good standing. So I pay the minimum payment, so I stay in good standing. But just because I've made my payments on time, the payment on time can be $41. Hey man, he makes all his payments on time, but he has $7,000 that he's being charged on. They don't care if you let $7,000 sit there. They'll just charge you interest, but he's in good standing. So for me, what do? I don't give a damn what that minimum payment is. What do I pay?
The $797.
On March 7th, on April 7th. I'm sending them a check straight from my bank account for $797.76. What am I back to? Zero. I don't have my credit line up there, but zero. So what do I do the next month? Spend it again. I can do that though, because I have the money in my account from my career. You need to be mindful. You can't spend more money than you have to pay back, or you're going to be stuck. If you only make $1,000 a month and you spend $1,200 on your credit card, how are you going to send them a check for $1,200? How are you going to send them a payment for $1,200? You can't. So now you're going to send them what you have, and then you're going to be charged interest on that. So the key is only spend on your credit card what you have the cash to pay them for at the end of the month, so you get back to zero, so they're not getting any money from you. That is the way, ideally, that is the way to understand. That's the fundamental approach to credit, where you won't have to pay a dime.
So if you don't spend any money on the credit card, do you just pay the minimum payment due by that time or no?
If you don't spend any money on the card.
Yeah. So like if you don't spend that $797.
I already spent it. They're billing me for it. Hey, you owe $797.
But if you don't spend any of that money.
If the card just sits in your dresser?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, and you don't spend any money and it's zero? After 6 months, you might get a letter say, hey, your card hasn't been active. We're going to cancel your account. That's another thing. Keep your cards active. Go to the store, buy a pack of gum. That's a transaction. Put it in a drawer. 6 months later, do it again. Keep your cards active, because they will send you a card. They want you to spend the money. Keep it active. That's a side conversation. I was going to point that out at some point in time, but yeah, I think that's your question, right?
Yeah.
Keep your cards active. But again, you guys aren't going to have that problem necessarily just yet, because you should get one card that works for you, spend it on a couple of things that you know you do every week, every day. You're going to eat food. You're probably going to pay your cell phone bill. Use the credit card for that. You were going to pay it anyway from your what? What do you use now to buy food or to purchase that? Or what do you use now? Your debit card, right? Just move it over to credit. You already have it. So instead of using your debit card, use the credit card. And then you can do it right away, by the way. You go buy something for 150 bucks that you would have normally bought on Amazon with your debit card. You can go home, or I should say, you can use your credit card instead. Go home, send the 150 from your checking over to your credit card. It's there. Paid for, done. They'll take care of it. So the discipline is, okay, I'm going to use the credit card, somebody else's money, and I'm going to pay them back what I use. That has to be the nature of what you do. But again, there's some prerequisites here, which is you have to have enough money in your account to be able to pay them at the end of the month. And you have to be disciplined not to spend more of their money than you have of your own. This idea, and this is where they get young people. And I told you last time I was walking through, I went back to university for homecoming with my fraternity brothers, and we were walking through the commons, and he's like, yo, this is where they got me, right here with that credit card when I was 18. I walked in, first day they had them all set up, there was tables and stuff, and they threw me a credit card for $1,500, man. 18 years old, swiped it, maxed it out. He said, I paid that balance down for like 5 years after that. They got him, because he was spending money he didn't have. So the problem is, when you get a credit line of $10,000, you think, oh, I have $10,000. Do you? Look at your checking account. That's how much money you have. It's not what they give you. They want you to overspend, obviously, so that they can earn interest on whatever you're spending, okay? So here's my account. Again, March account. They send you the statement. This is what you owe for that time frame. You can pay that. Then we'll charge you interest on the rest of it. Let it sit as long as you want. We'll just charge you interest. You stay in good standing. And just pay that every month and stay in good standing. That way your credit, your credit won't go down with that balance, necessarily. But you'll be paying interest on that money, okay? We're good? Okay. So this is just one example of how the statement works, but this is really, I think, for a numbers standpoint, to let you understand what we're talking about here. Now, we talked about it, but I didn't really point it out. Down here, late payment warning. If we do not receive your minimum payment by the date listed above, that's the $41, what will they do? One, you may have to pay a late fee of up to $41. It's another fee that you have to pay for being late because they didn't pay the basic minimum. And your interest rate is going to go up. Say you have an 18% interest rate, which is ridiculously high compared to, 0, but say that's a relatively low one nowadays. It may go up to 29%. So if you miss one payment, they skyrocket your rate to be able to charge the balance that you didn't get. I mean, it spirals out of control. Stay away from that, okay? I'm not even worried about it. I don't even see that fine print. I'm allergic to that. It doesn't even apply to me. Now, I read it and I know what it is, just in case, but you want to get to a position where it doesn't affect you anymore. That's the real whole goal here. And you do that by spending just a little bit that you can pay back. And as you make more money, you spend a little bit more. And then you get to the point where I am and I understand my monthly income. I have a relatively secure job. I can kind of count on that. I have my budget structured, have a little bit of an emergency fund. Now I can spend money on the card. I still look and see, can I afford this vacation? Can we go over here? Can I do? And I say, okay, I have it. Swipe, boom, check, boom, and it comes out automatically. Like, what's today? The 5th? 2 days, that'll be taken out of my checking account. It'll just go, $797, gone. You think, oh my God, but I spent that money already. I have my money, but I spent their $797. So real quick, in case you weren't here last time, what's another perk of spending somebody else's money? Fraud. You use your debit card at the store, restaurant, gas station. Fraud. They're going to drain your bank account. You got to go through hoops to get your cash back. You can maybe get it back, file claim, da-da-da. That happens with a credit card. You make one call. Hey, man, they fraudulent on the card, cancel it, whatever. Not my money. Y'all figure that out. Get a new card in the mail, new number, keep it moving. That's how that works. So it's another plus. Promotions and balance transfers. And I don't want to spend too much time on these things because this is kind of outside the scope of beginners, but I want you to know what these things are. Promotions. What's a promotion? You alluded to it, Miguel. What's a promotion? Sign up now or apply for this card and you get 0% interest for 18 months, maybe even 21 months. I got a card for 21 months. And if you pay it in good standing, you get 3 extra months. Promotion. What does that mean? That means that you can get the card and you can spend whatever you want for 21, say you get a card for $5,000. It's a promotion, $5,000 credit line. You can spend $2,000 and you have 21 months to pay that $2,000 back without being charged interest. Now you got to make a minimum payment, which is probably be like 20 bucks. But that means here's the deal. Let's give a real life scenario. Transmission goes out. Man, it's $2,000. Apply for a credit card. You get a credit card for $3,000 credit line. You pay for the transmission, $2,000 on the credit card. The card came with a promo. You have 21 months to pay the $2,000 back. I ain't got $2,000. I won't have $2,000 for 12 months. That's okay. You have 21 months to pay them back. So what do? You pay 25 every month. Or you do the math. What I'll do is, what's 21 divided by 2,000? Y'all can do that math if you want to. And I'll just send them that every month. Because by 21 months, what's paid off? That 2,000. So otherwise, you have to pay interest if you don't have that promotion. So it could be 12 months, could be, Best Buy has that. Best Buy has, you see the promos all the time. You have a Best Buy card. You know, purchases made of $299 or more, you get 12 months, no interest. So if you ever have to buy something like that, you know, later on when you have credit and you're disciplined, I don't want to spend $450 right now if I don't have to. I'll spend $450 over the course of 12 months. That's only $25 or whatever out of my paycheck. I can just spread that out. This requires a lot of discipline. I want to be clear about this, but it's the mentality of they're giving me this amount of money and they're giving me 21 months, 18 months with the promotion at least to pay the balance off. Make the minimum payment. So you stay in good standing, your credit card doesn't go down. And I don't make just the minimum payment. I'll make it, you know, where it adds up and I pay it off. I brought these in. This is a week and a half. In a week and a half, they've sent me these. This is what they are. Week and a half. New credit card application. You know what I do with these? This is what I do with these. That's what I do with them. I'm good. I don't want your credit. I mean, unless it's a promo that I apply for, I don't want these. I don't need them. But let's open one up and see what it says. Because it's usually promotions. Just as an example. What do we have here? PNC Bank, which I already have a card with already. 0% APR, meaning they're not going to charge you interest, on balance transfers for the first 15 billing cycles, first 15 months. What's a balance transfer? Say you were in debt $4,000 with a card and you had a promo and the promo is about to run out. Oh man, it's been 21 months. I still owe them $4,000. After the 21 months, the next bill, I'm going to get charged interest on it. What do I want to do? I'm going to take that balance, $4,000, apply for this card, transfer the $4,000 over to this card. What does it say? 0% APR on balance transfers for the first 15 months. I get 15 more months on this card. That one's paid down to zero. Now, there's a fee. $50, whatever, $150, but I'd rather pay $150 one time than start getting charged interest and hit over the head for $4,000 over there. That's called a balance transfer. You move it over. It's a promotion, and sometimes they'll only let you do that with promotions, but that's called a balance transfer, and there's promotions to do that one, okay? I know that's a lot, and again, I could spend more time on this and give you more scenarios, but that's what a promotional APR, a promotional purchase APR is, or a promotional balance transfer. These are things that will allow you, if you're disciplined, to make the minimum payments, spread your purchases out over that time frame so that you don't have to get hit over the head all at once. And I'll tell you the honest truth, you know, this is just how I learned about this. I don't know if I want to tell that story, but I learned about this in my late 20s. In my 30s, there was a time where I was in between jobs. We'll just leave it at that. Some of y'all took my class, you know this story. And at one point, I paid my rent with a credit card for a couple of months. And I did that because I had 21 months to pay that off. Now, I was gambling on being able to have that money at the end. I was hustling, I was coaching, I was speaking. I don't recommend that, but I was able to do that and for a couple of months. So what else did I do? I went on a vacation. I'm gonna go on a vacation. Vacation's gonna cost $2,000. I have $2,000 in my savings account. I have $2,000 in my emergency fund. I could pay the $2,000 for the vacation, but I could also apply for a card that has a 21-month promotion and say, okay, what's somebody do the math. What's 2,000 divided by 21? There's math whizzes in here. Come on, quick, fast, and in a hurry. What is it? You're right there. 2,000 divided by 21. What is it? 2,000 divided by 21. What is it? $95. So what am I going to do for 21 months? I'm going to send that credit card $100. That's it. I'm going to pay for my vacation. I'm going to pay $100 a month for my $2,000 vacation. $100. And then by 21 months, credit card's down to zero. I don't get charged anything. Vacation's paid for. Or I can give them $2,000 at once. If you're not disciplined, pay for it now when you have it. But where I'm at and where I want you all to go is I'm going to do something like that and pay for it over time. Didn't pay a fee, didn't get charged no interest. And what I haven't talked about yet is this bad boy right here. Rewards cards. Because everything I've talked about right now, you're still at zero. Or you're paying interest. What do I want you to do? I want you to find a card at some point where you are paid to use their money. Now you've heard of these before. Cashback, Sky Miles, points.
What happened like when if you have a credit card and then you wanna like cancel the account?
No, it's not good. She said, what happens if you want to cancel the card? There are very rare cases where you should cancel the account. You want to keep your account in good standing unless there's some extenuating circumstances. Canceling accounts will drop your credit a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but ideally you want to keep your accounts in good standing and keep them active.
If you credit card, you just want to use one.
Keep them active. They build your credit by having them open. Don't cancel them. Just keep them active and don't use them like he talked about. Let's talk about rewards right now. Cashback, Sky Miles, points. I'm a cashback guy. There are a few times where you can get a rewards card where the value of your points will actually be more than cash. Maybe you do that. I'm a cashback guy. I just take the cash, goes right in my checking account. How does it work? Well, I'll give you a simple demonstration. Why would a credit card company pay you money? Here you go, here's a card. You got a credit card. You got a credit card. All right, and you got a credit card. Yeah, here. Those are cashback cards, okay? Cashback cards. And what they have is they have a cashback card, which means that as they make purchases on that card, that the credit card company will give them a percentage. They'll pay them some money to make purchases. Gas, groceries, certain areas, utilities, whatever. So as you pay your cell phone bill, you get 2% cash back. That's legit. Points are cash. You accumulate. It'll go into your checking account. Why would credit card companies do that? Because what they're banking on is, you're going to see, oh, wow, free cash if I just spend the money. Oops, got myself in a hole. Now the interest you have to pay, how much is that? So for every $5 I pay her, $5 I pay her in cash back, that's 10. $5 I pay her in cash back for being disciplined and using the card. He spent too much money, let me get $20. Let me get $20 in interest. Let me get $20 in interest. I paid for that $5 I gave her and then some. No, that's yours. You were disciplined. You got the cash back. I get the cash back. But when you all go in the hole, that credit card company makes hella more money on y'all than it pays me for my cash back. But I'm making cash back. So you think, why would that happen? Why would they give money out like that? Well, they're making more than they're getting. But that is appealing to people. When you're on that plane and they say, hey, you get the first 5,000 miles are free and you can earn first class. Hey, I'll sign up for that one. Before you know it, you're swiping. Oh, shit, man, I didn't pay my payment. Getting charged interest. And meanwhile, I'm being disciplined and the interest you're paying is going into my checking account. You see how that works? That's what they're banking on. So don't get too antsy when you see cash back or rewards cards unless you're disciplined enough to take advantage of them. And I have been for years. And it's $15, it's $30, but that's free money to me. It's money you were going to spend with your debit card. You were already going to spend that with your debit card. Why? Spend their money and have them pay you for spending their money. Just pay them back on time. It's not rocket science, and there's no secret to this. It's just the discipline is the most important part, and then it's applying it. I think I have time for a couple of questions maybe, and then I want to just briefly talk about investments because I know a lot of y'all right now aren't really thinking about retirement, but you maybe should have a little bit of knowledge about it. So any quick questions about that so far? Because I think that's a starting point for all of you, at least to go look up more information on. Michael.
What would be like a good time span to get like a second credit card?
Yeah, so two answers. He said, what's a good time span to get a second credit card? I think you should look at necessity, whether you need it or not, because sometimes you can get overzealous and now you're doing well with one, you get another one, and then it feels like, oh wow, my credit line just jumped up from 5,000 to 20,000, and then you overspend. So I think you can look at what your necessities are and if you need one, but if you have one for quite some time and want to build your credit, there's really no time frame, at least that I'm aware of, that you should worry about. It goes down to, are you going to be disciplined enough to not overspend with that one? You can apply for another one. But remember, every time you apply for another one, it will take a hit, and they're going to look at, are you spending, all those factors we talked about, more accounts you get, the more they're going to look at. Now, I will say this. Generally speaking, last I checked, with most credit cards, you get a $2,000 credit line. You use that card for 6 months. Every 6 months, a lot of people don't notice, every 6 months you can request a credit line increase. So you can ask them for more money. Hey, I was good for 6 months. Can you give me more money? Boom, now it's $2,500. Credit line increase next 6 months later. Put it on your calendar. Request a credit line increase. Now it's $3,500. Why do you want to increase your credit line? Why do you want to ask them for more money? You're not going to spend it because you want that to look real good. Hey man, that person is allowed to spend $10,000. They must be really responsible. But you only spend $400 a month. $10,000 sitting there. I hope that makes sense.
You mentioned earlier that when you have a credit card just sitting there, it gets canceled out.
Inactive. Sometimes they will.
Yeah, so like let's say you stop using that one because you got a new, maybe a
Better card, yeah.
Yeah. Does that affect your credit score because you're not using
No, that's an open account with the credit line sitting right there. It's $2,000 sitting in the drawer. Now they'll say, hey, you haven't spent that $2,000 in a long time. We're going to cancel that. They'll sometimes do that. So go spend it on a bill every 6 months or something like that. Keep it active. Yeah.
I have a couple of family members that have their own there's like their own personal credit card and like a business card.
Yep. There's business cards too. I do too.
Yeah, so sometimes when I work at a flea market, sometimes customers use their business cards instead of like their credit card or their debit card to buy like stuff from us.
Yeah, not going to get into the perks and the benefits of how you can use it, but yeah, business cards, obviously there's perks for business cards, benefits, but there's reasons to keep your business account separate than your personal account, but that's outside a little bit of what we're talking about here, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. B, why every time a company check your credit and then just go down?
Yeah, because what that means to them is she's applying for more credit, meaning she's asking for more money. That's all that is. Your credit doesn't go down 50 points when you apply for a new credit card or you apply for a new account. It just takes a hit, 10, 15 maybe, I don't know what it is, and then it's up in 2 months. Like, don't get too scared about that. But it is telling them, why are they applying for more credit? You know, if you're applying 4 times a month for credit cards, they're gonna be like, what's going on? And they want it to go down because that's asking for a lot of money.
So like piggy off of what she said, instead of increasing, like asking for them to increase your credit, would it be better just to open up multiple credit cards, or like which one would be better, or it's the same?
I would focus on maximizing the first card, but again, these are nuances that it depends. I would say if you have a credit line of $1,500, that other card you apply for is going to see that. Be like, as opposed to they already have, and your credit score is going to be relative to whatever you have for $1,500. So I would say focus on building up that one card for a while to where you have a pretty good score. It really probably matters more so with your score than it does with that one card. If you get your credit up to 750, 800 with one card, and it really doesn't matter how long you've used that for, they'll probably offer you another one. And when you get good credit, they'll start sending you stuff in the mail because they want to capitalize on that.
What happens if you go over the limit that they give you?
A penalty, a fee, yeah. And obviously you're gonna have to pay for what you owe them too. So yeah, don't do that. Investment accounts, again, outside the scope of what y'all are doing, but you might think about this. But before I actually talk about investment accounts, I want to really point out what we're talking about here. Really, we're talking about retirement, okay? You're really talking about retirement. Now, you hear about these, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, fast interactions, get it back, day trading, invest in Apple and get money. We're not talking about, within a day or a week. So what I'm going to talk about here is really you putting money away for your future. Because like I said, you're going to work for the next 20, 30 years and hopefully you enjoy that work. But at some point, you might not want to work that hard. How are you going to be paid for that? Or what are you going to be paid for to do there? So here we're talking about retirement. Now, full disclosure, at this position, and when I was a school counselor, we have a pension. We have a retirement account set up for us. And what that means is after I retire, I'm going to get a percentage of what I made. And so it's kind of, I'm taken care of to a certain extent with a little bit of money. It's just part of the retirement plan. Those don't really exist anymore. Now what you hear about is the 401k and some other options that companies will set up for you. But you still have to contribute to them and then they'll match. So it depends on what you put into that. I won't get into how businesses or corporations maybe work, but the point is that account is a long-term account. It's for when you retire, you reach retirement age, you can pull that money out of it. Now, you can go and join a company who has a 401k or retirement account set up for you, but you can also start your own. You can open your own. And so we'll look at some of those investment accounts. Investment companies, this is where you would go to. Think of this as the bank, all right? Where you want to open an account, you go to the investment company. There's a few of them here. There's a ton of other ones though. I have an account with Vanguard and with TIAA CREF, but I'm the TIAA now, but anyway, investment companies. That would be the company you'd go to open the what? To open the account. Well, what kind of account are you going to open up? It depends. So there they are. There's just some of the accounts. Anybody know what IRA stands for? Individual retirement account, okay? That's what that is. An individual retirement account is something that you can open up, you can put money into, you can save money, and I should say invest money. And when that money's in there, when you pull it out, you got to pay taxes on it. Roth IRA, you pay taxes on the money you put in. So if I put $50 into an IRA and I take it out in how many years, I got to pay taxes on that money when I take it out. Whatever that amount is, I got to pay taxes on that amount. If I have a Roth IRA, I pay taxes on the 50 right now, put it in, whatever's there in 40 years, I take it all out, don't pay a dime. That's the difference, roughly, okay? And then you got 401ks, 403bs, a lot of different structure, but these are types of accounts you can look into. You go there, look into one of those, and then what do you do? What do you do with that account? What do you do with that Roth IRA, Mr. AB? Well, where are you going to invest your money? And again, I'm not teaching you how to do this. I'm just showing you some possibilities. Types of investments. You can invest in funds. I won't get too much into what funds are, but I'll show you one example. Stock funds, that's obviously you're investing in stocks. It's a fund. So if you have a fund full of tech stocks, you could invest in Apple specifically. You can invest in Google, Amazon, whatever the case is. Index funds. Index fund is a group of companies put together in one bucket, basically, and you invest in all of them in that bucket. And I'll talk a little more about index funds in a minute. Mutual funds, bond funds. These are places you'll put your money so that money can grow. It's called gaining interest over time. And then you just put it away, and that's really long term. So this is the process roughly, just giving you an idea of how all that stuff works. Then what? Okay, so give you an example. I have a Roth IRA set up through Vanguard, and I have invested that 100% of it goes to an index fund. What's the index fund? The index fund mirrors the S&P 500. What that means is the S&P 500 is what we'll look at to see how the stock market's doing roughly, at least how those 500 companies are doing. And what is the S&P 500? It says it's a market capitalization weighted stock market index of the 500 leading publicly traded companies in the US. So this is an index of all of those 500 companies, how they're doing, how their stocks are doing together, all together, 500 of them. So I don't have to go and say, hey, I want these 500. They're already put together. And so the fund that I invest in mirrors, Vanguard has went and said, what are the 500 companies there? Let's get funds and shares at the same amount and put them in this bucket, and you can invest in basically those 500. So now if I want to know how my money's doing, or really if things have gone up or down, all I got to do is look at the S&P 500. So anyway, that's what the index fund is. And you can see this is over timeline here. And the reason why I'm showing you this can be overwhelming, but mainly I'm showing you this because I want to show you what the average percentage return is over time, because really what you're concerned about is long term. Remember, this is a place you put your money and really don't worry about it for 30, 40 years, depending on how long you stick it there, if you're younger. The longer you wait to open the account, the less time you have. What does it say here? Well, let me go back. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm going to show you why time's money in a minute. Time is definitely money, and I'm running out of both of them right now. So just historically, just to show you, this is February of 1993 right here, over time, and where we are right now today, okay? Never mind the numbers as much, except for the fact that 408 is not zero, and there's the increase there. But what do we have with this arrow right here? That's the dot-com bubble. That's 1999, and there was a crash roughly after that. So it peaked out, and then it crashed, and then it rebounded. And what happened right here? That's 2008. That was the Great Recession. My first home that I bought went from $165,000 to $65,000. It's called underwater. I had to short sell that. It's a little bit more of the history of my background with money. And at that time, and y'all here, remember, they thought it was going to take 10 years, 15 years to recover from that Great Recession. Let me tell you something about money. When that fear hits, understand, when people are panicking and they're scared because the market is low, there's also an opportunity to capitalize there too. Don't let fear drive you, because look what happened. Right there, that's where it dropped off. Boom, like dropped off a cliff. Man, when's it going to recover? Less than 4 years later, we were back right where we were when it dropped off. And look where we are now. So if you would have, at the time that bucket dropped out, the bottom of the bucket dropped out, if you would have put money in an account and left it there for 10 years, you would have tripled your money just about. So just showing you how history works. And that's where we are right now. And this is the recession that we're in, by the way. You see that dip? That's 2021, and this is where we are right now. Everything was talking about a recession for the past year or so. That's what it looks like. Everything slid down. Now, it didn't drop down to zero. It's not how it works, but that's a big slide. So, little history. You can see what's going on with money, and this is where you can get a snapshot, just showing you how things work. The markets react, and that's what happens. You don't got to get into the markets and all that stuff. I'm just showing you how you can invest money in this. Why does this not matter to you if you're investing for your retirement? Because if you invest here, I don't care what happens for 40 years. I'm going to be here. Oh my God, oh my God. Here are my buddies. They're 35, 40 years old. They have retirement accounts. When this thing happened and it crashed, they were freaking out. I said, dog, you're not touching that money for 25 more years. It's going to recoup and rebound and triple by that time. Stop worrying about the crash. It doesn't affect you. That's a long-term investment. So if you're short-term investments and you put a lot of money in an account where you want money back in 1 year and the market crashes, like for older people who were expecting their retirement account, were expecting their retirement here, and then this happened, they got screwed because they were expecting to pull that money out and the value wasn't there. So they either have to wait or take a loss. But for you all long-term, you don't have to worry about that so much. Let's talk about this really quickly. I want to leave with this because this is really how all that works. How do you make money off of this? Interest versus savings versus investing. So talk about interest, savings versus investing. Just do the simple math. If you save $100 a month, $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year, if you do that for the next 40 years, starting right now, let's pretend you're 20. You save $100 a month, put it in a savings account, you might get 2% interest, so this will be roughly what it is. You'll have, in 40 years, accounting for inflation, a little bit of percentage rate, $50,000 maybe. You're going to live off of that and retire off of that for 20, 30 years? What if you put the same amount of money, $1,200 a year, $100 a month, into an investment account that gets you 11, 12% return interest over the course of time? You can turn that same $1,200 a month or that $4,800 is $48,000 out of your pocket that you would pay, you can turn that into, what is that? That's $1,077,000. You're like, oh, those are just big numbers, Mr. Abe. I can't wrap my head around that one. Let me show you how it happens. It's called compound interest, and it relies on time. This is why you should, as quick as you can, get your shit together, go do your research, talk to someone who you trust, who's mature, open a retirement account and put $5 in it every month starting now until you can put 25, and then until you can put 50, and then until you can put 100. Because what does it happen? Say you open the account, this is going to be quick, it's going to blow your mind, but this is really how it works. And I showed you that S&P 500 because I wanted to show you the return, the average return, because the critics will say 12%, yeah, 12%, but that's what's critical. $500 you start the account with. You open a retirement account. Might be $2,000 now, there's limits. $500 what you start with, that's the 500. Annual addition, what are you putting in every year? $100 a month, right? Which is $1,200. For how many years? 30 years. Say you're 20, you want to pull this money out when you're 50. 12% interest, we already showed you that over the course of 30 years, roughly the S&P returns about 12%. That's why that's a legitimate number. What do you calculate that to be? In 30 years, when you're 50, you'll have almost $350,000. Okay? Okay. Watch this. Say you start at 20 and you wait till you're 60. 10 more years, same amount of money, 10 more years. So instead of 40, instead of 30, 40. $1,077,000 when you turn 60 years old from $100 a month. Now y'all ain't thinking about when you're 60, but if you want to think about when you're 60 and you'd like $1 million, that's how you do it. I mean, that's one way you can do it. How does that work? It's called compound interest, because all the money you're putting in, that $1,200 that you're putting in a year, you're making interest on that money, and then that money makes money on that money, and the interest starts to compound. It's called compound interest. You can't do this without time. If you're 20, you can start now. If you decide to wait till you're 30 to start, okay, $339,000 is not bad, but you lost about $700,000 waiting 10 years to start. You understand how time equals money when you talk about long-term investing? So I know a lot of y'all can't start right now. You can't open a retirement account tomorrow. But within the next few years, your main goal should be really find somewhere you can start to chip away and put money in, because it's the time, y'all. My stepdad opened that Roth IRA for me when I was, I think, 21, 22. I really didn't start putting money into it until I was in my 30s, 30, 28, 29, 30, right around when I got my education on money. And I missed 10 years. So I'll have what I have, but you guys can start. And that's really what that is. That's the difference 10 years can make. And for you guys, I really stress it because you all are young and you could take advantage of that. Even if it's $5, $10, $20, this should be a goal for you long term. Short term though, focus first on the other things. This is a complex understanding because you have to see where you have to tell that fund or where that money's going to go. And by the way, with Vanguard, I went with Vanguard. For me, they had the lowest fees. Because you got to pay that institution who's going to invest that money in those funds. They're going to pay when you invest that $100 a month. They're going to take whatever $4 off of that as a fee. But that's just the name of the game. Find the lowest fees you can to invest, because you're investing in someone else's stock. They're doing that. Okay? That's really the deal. That's how time matters. Okay? Again, thank you guys for coming. I really do appreciate it. And I look to connect with you guys. Let me know.
I hope you got some knowledge and value from this workshop, and if so, I'd love for you to share it with me in the comments. If you did find this specific content valuable and you'd like to learn more, I'm considering creating a Psychology of Money course where I dive deep into some of the specifics that I talked about in this video. If that's something you'd be interested in, please let me know in the comments by typing the word course. Either way, I hope you're leaving this video with some value, and if so, be sure to subscribe for more personal leadership and holistic lifestyle coaching content in the future. Until then, take care.